There are three principles that the Apostle Paul gives us in Philippians chapter 3, verse 10, when he makes the statement that I may know him and the power of his resurrection. That's number one. The power of his resurrection. Understanding that if we don't believe that there is a resurrection after death, then we don't believe anything, really. I mean, just forget the whole thing about doctrine, the gospel. None of that has any significance at all if there is no resurrection. And the Apostle Paul made it very, very clear when he said, oh, I wrestle with beasts at Ephesus. If there be no resurrection, then it's all meaningless. So as Christians, we believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross and that he rose from the dead. And he did all of this that mankind could find forgiveness of our sins because he lived the life sinless and then bore our sins upon himself and delivered them to the mercy seat in heaven. So we believe in resurrection. We believe in resurrection power. But the second principle that he gives us here is the fellowship of his suffering. In other words, we have an understanding of how that Jesus Christ suffered on the cross as humans suffer in these mortal bodies. We deal with sickness and disease. We deal with tragedies. We deal with things that happens to our bodies, and we understand what suffering is about. We understand what suffering is about in the human element, dealing with emotional things and psychological things. All of these things that we deal with as humans. Jesus experienced it all. And so now as he is there on the right hand of the Father as our advocate attorney, he has great empathy for what it's like to have lived in a human body. Thus, as the writer of Hebrews says, he becomes our great high priest. He's our great high priest because he experienced what we've experienced. And he prevailed even against everything that was coming against his mortal body there in Gethsemane, when the emotional trauma and travail was so strong and so intense that blood was coming out of his pores. And there in the garden to say, not my will, but thy will. And he said those words when he said that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, saying that the things that we deal with in this flesh, but we understand his sufferings and we have empathy because of it. And he has empathy because he experienced it, that we may be conformable into his death, and to say, look here, this world is not what matters. What matters is the world to come, the life to come. That is the great prize. This is Pastor Jack King with the gospel on the radio broadcast.